Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the solar eclipse that happens on the 20th of April 2023. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Solar eclipses are always really exciting because they're just such big, powerful events that influence us hugely. And this one is particularly interesting to me. It's a solar hybrid eclipse, so it's really rare. It happens like once every 10 years. It happens at 5:12 in the morning, and that's based on Central European time. So if you're in a different time zone, just take that into account. If you're west of Europe, it'll be earlier in the morning on the 20th or late at night on the 19th. And if you're east of Europe, it'll be later on during the day. So just in terms of the solar hybrid eclipse, just in terms of kind of the mechanics of it, like this is a new moon, first of all, so the sun and the moon, they line up, they conjunct. So that's why we've got this happening. But because we've got the sun over here and the earth here and the moon going in between, the sun kind of shines its light on the moon, and the moon then casts its shadow on the earth. And that's why it always looks funny to us during a eclipse, because the shadow hits us directly, we can see it. And then it sometimes creates a ring around the sun, and sometimes it's partially covered. And the interesting thing with this is that it's a hybrid one. So it has three different shadows, right, that it uses. And because the distance between the sun and the moon this time around is exactly right, all three of the moon's shadows hit the earth. So depending on your location, for some people, it'll look like a total annular solar eclipse, like a total blackout. For other people, it'll be partial. And for other people, it'll be like with the ring around the sun. So that to me is super interesting because it says that this is something that very much relies on your perspective, your location, and that's going to be a big theme of this, that if the moon, the way we feel, what our heart is, right, if that can be whatever it wants on this day, then why can't we be whatever we want and feel however we want? That's the kind of logic I'm applying to this. So I'm going to have a look at this. So I mentioned the time. Yep, it happens on the 20th. So first of all, I mentioned the conjunction already. So the sun and the moon, they blend their energies together. And regardless of this being an eclipse and the shadow hitting us, this is a new moon first and foremost. So the moon is pitch black. That in itself is a special time every kind of 28 days, where the moon, it takes a break, it goes inward, and it says, do you know what, I'm not so interested in how I display myself and what I'm doing outwardly. I'm interested in what's going on inwardly. And I'm going to spend some time pulling energy in and recharging my batteries. And then I'm going to make a plan for the next 28 days. It's a very pioneering, independent, the type of thinking that's outside of the box. And if you have a new moon in your birth chart, it's great. It gives you all of those qualities, like leadership and innovation and invention and doing things just because you feel them to be important and powerful. So we've got the sun at 29 degrees in Aries. If the moon is your heart and the way you feel, then the sun is your head and the way you see yourself and what you feel empowered by and what you identify with. So the fact that these two are in the same position, kind of connecting in this way, means that your heart and your head are able to talk to each other very well. So if there's anything that's in conflict about you, that's causing you problems about your own life, and remember, this is looking inward, right? So it's not like I see a problem in that person and I see a problem in that situation. It's much more about I'm becoming aware that certain things within me aren't working, and what can I do to kind of amend that? So the two are lined up, they conjunct, so they pull all this Aries energy in. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's associated with the ram, and it's in the element of fire. Fire is a masculine element. And it's very much about taking charge, and again, being very independent, and kind of making the plan for yourself. So the placement of the new moon, that in itself contains this independent pioneering energy. It being then in Aries doubles that to a certain degree, because Aries is very much aligned with that vibe of saying, okay, I'm going to start this whole journey and I'm going to see it through. So this new moon in itself is really going to energize you. It's going to make you feel like the world is my oyster here. I can achieve anything I want. And it's at 29 degrees. 29, if you add up those numbers, is 11. And 11 is the master number of service. So this new moon in itself, I think, is an opportunity to be of service to yourself in such a way that the thing to iron out the wrinkles that exist internally, like the things that don't work for you about your own life. You're able to look at those without judgment, and you're able to do something about them. And you know, I was thinking about this, and when I printed out this chart, the image I got with this eclipse is that it's like a blackout of the identity, right? Because the sun represents our conscious identity. It's being blacked out or partially eclipsed in some way. So the identity is up for discussion. It's up for grabs. And then the image I got was this blackout and like this kind of dancer in the dark figure. And through the dance, like the inner kind of momentum, like this giant bonfire appears. That's all the Aries, the fire stuff. And it kind of burns away the difficulties and it lights up the whole scene. And then the dancer kind of, yeah, I really, this is what appeared to me. The dancer then dances around and exhausts herself, and she falls asleep, and the next morning when she wakes up, it's daytime. Because the funny thing about this, which I'll touch on in a second, is that everything changes a few hours later into Taurus, an earth sign, which is fixed and about comfort and abundance. So she wakes up, and now she's like left with the ashes, and they've kind of turned into fertilizers, and these beautiful flowers have sprung up. And that's what I think this whole process is, this eclipse. The process of kind of accepting where you are, first of all, then making the first move and saying, I don't understand everything, I'm not happy with everything, but I'm going to do my best anyway. That then brings that fire in, so the universe is kind of activated. That's a very cleansing, kind of detoxifying process. And then immediately you take that energy and that power and that focus and you put it into practice. You build something that's then going to serve your life. And the amazing thing about this is it's not just a new moon, it's an eclipse. And when this process of the new moon or the full moon is interrupted, something is kind of caught, I always feel, and it lingers and it influences us for the next 6 months. Until the next solar eclipse, which has a different theme. And then near to this one, we'll have a lunar eclipse. So, by the way, the solar eclipses are much more about what's happening for you on a conscious level. It's what's happening in the world as such. It's what's happening with the powers that be. Lunar eclipses are more about your feelings and internal kind of the inner workings. So it's interesting that this is a solar eclipse and a very hybrid solar eclipse that can look many different ways. So really this is a complicated one for me because it just seems so complex. It's about doing the work on your identity in a conscious way without the emotions being overly involved. So you're able to evolve without the usual emotional pain and suffering that can sometimes go along with it, or the spiritual elation that can go along with kind of real, genuine change. So it's a bit much, right? I think this is a bit much. And then what happens, like an hour and 18 minutes after the eclipse happens, then the moon, and I'm using the word flees, it flees into Taurus. And that's kind of the next morning scene where, you know, the ashes have now turned into earth and the flowers have come up. And Taurus immediately wants to get on with it. It wants to take control of the situation. And again, it feels very confident and comfortable in its own views and opinions about what's going to happen and what it wants to build. It's really builder mode, right? If you think of the sign for Taurus, it's the bull. It doesn't doubt itself very much, and it prides itself on its strength. And then the sun also goes into Taurus a few hours later. I think it's about 4 or 5 hours later. But then also, it's not just, I feel very practical and I want to get ready to build this new identity or this new kind of path that's been revealed to me here in this kind of weird dark night of the bonfire soul kind of thing. And the sun then says, okay, and I'm switched on a practical level with actual phone calls I'm going to have to make and people I'm going to have to talk to kind of make some changes happen and to get things done. These are also the first two signs of the zodiac, right? The first two signs of the zodiac, everything is just beginning. We're starting out, like all the opportunities are there. There haven't been any experiences yet. And Taurus then is the energy to build something of your own, you know, that fundamental human desire to just kind of say, I'm going to use this power that I've been given to build something that's mine. So these are all very much about new beginnings. What are we going to do in future? It's not about winding down. It's not about reflecting. It's not about kind of letting things go and seeing the other person's perspective. It's about being strong and building. So that to me says, like, because this is an eclipse, the next 6 months contain a lot of that nice energy, hard work, people being interested and focused on what they want to do. It's like growing the garden is very, very possible over the next 6 months. And, you know, if you tend and care for anything pretty much over a 6-month period, it's usually going to flourish. So I feel that not only personally are you able to kind of resolve the conflict in certain things, but I also think practically this is a great time, and because it's going to be pretty much for the rest of the year until what, October, that it's a great time for people who are trying to start new businesses or who actually are starting new businesses or thinking about it. And it's for people who are focused on their careers and the progression of those careers and what the plan is with the career, and then also their living situation, the way they feel health-wise, what they want to nurture and grow and strengthen and develop. So this is like, you know, another scene is like, this is like a compound being built, you know, or a new neighborhood being built. This is super ultra constructive, it's positive, it's action-based, and there's no dilly-dallying here at all. The strongest mode in the chart is cardinal. Cardinal is the same as a new moon and Aries. Aries is cardinal. It's I take action. I initiate, I do the work. And then the weird thing, even though this is a solar eclipse in Aries, the strongest element on the day, even already before the moon and the sun change signs, is Earth. So the practical considerations here are really integral part of this solar eclipse in Aries, because the direction you're being pushed into is a more practical life, to be more outward, to build things on Earth, not to go inward and to kind of reveal things here. It's about what are you going to do now in business hours, basically. Yeah. Okay, then the eclipse, new moon, it forms a couple of relationships with other things. So first of all, it's conjunct to Jupiter. Jupiter is nearby at 6 degrees away. Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion and good fortune and good luck. And it can also be excess and things getting out of control. And that's in Aries at 23 degrees. And that really inflates the pioneering spirit, and it takes it from, you know, an ordinary ship captain to, I don't know, the captain of the greatest ship that was ever in the world. So I don't know, name one, the Santa Maria. It elevates it to take your confidence in yourself to an almost maniacal level. Is that a word? Megalomania. It inflates your ego massively. So watch out. To focus this, you can really, really create amazing, huge things in your life. Have these breakthroughs where you're like building things and committing things. But in terms of being contradicted, if you think it's unwarranted, or if someone really just deliberately tries to stop what you're doing or tries to control you, particularly, be very aware of that, because there's a tendency to not only defend and to state your case very clearly, but to go overboard with it and to then put relationships at risk. But ultimately, Jupiter is good luck, right? It's the great benefic. And at 23 degrees freedom, this is an opportunity to tap into this huge sense of self that can achieve anything, because sometimes the self-belief, you've got to kind of fake it to make it sometimes, I think, yeah. Because you haven't done it yet. You can't say, I know I can do this. So somehow you have to rev yourself up and say, of course I could do this. even though I have no guarantee. And that's what this eclipse does for you. So if you're someone who struggles with confidence, or if you are in a situation where you would like to create independence for yourself, like total independence, this is the opportunity, and the next 6 months are the opportunity to really break into that different kind of operating. We've also got Chiron nearby, but that doesn't conjunct the new moon eclipse. Neptune also, but they don't actually touch. I use 10-degree orbs. So the eclipse is at 29 degrees and Chiron is at 16, so that's outside of that. Oh, and the other thing I haven't even mentioned is it's at 29 degrees. I mentioned the 11, but each house in the chart has 30 degrees, right? So whenever something is at 0, I always feel you get the quintessential nature of that planet and that energy, and it's suspect in the chart. It excels in some way when it's at 0, right? But when something is at 1 degree and 29 degrees, so, some astrologers will disagree with me here on this, because some people say that, you know, when it's at 1 degree or at 29 degrees, it starts to gradually shift into the next sign, and it starts to take on the qualities of that next sign. And again, it becomes like a hybrid, right? I don't believe that. That's not been my experience in life. My experience in life is that when something is at 1 degree or 29 degrees, it feels that energy very intensely, and it clings onto it for dear life, and it heightens it even more. So I think 29 degrees of Aries is even more Aries than, you know, whatever other degree, 15 or 16 or whatever. So this is really it's a huge deal in terms of the astrology, in terms of what can be done with this energy, and ultimately overcoming ourselves. And it seems so positive. It seems like, yes, I'm overcoming myself, I'm building things I like, but I'm also like, you know, it's springtime, I'm out here enjoying other people and the beautiful things in life. It really seems idyllic to me, this. Okay, next we've got the North Node is at 4 degrees in Taurus, near to the eclipse. And the North Node, if I'm looking at your birth chart, the South and North Node, they show me where you're coming from on a spiritual level and the direction you're moving in. And it's very, very telling in terms of your life purpose. In Vedic astrology, I think it's called Ketu and Rahu, like the tail of the dragon and the head of the dragon. So the North Node here is at 4 degrees in Taurus, and the ultimate goal of this eclipse is to help you find a way of creating something solid that's yours in life, that creates security and comfort and a space to do all the beautiful things in life. You're going to need a roof over your head and food on the table if you want to be able to listen to music in the evening and kiss your boyfriend. If those basic needs aren't met, you can't enjoy the finer things in life. So this gives you the opportunity to build something like that. And then I use the part of fortune. It's an Arabic part, and that's at 4 degrees in Taurus, and that's the big luck factor here, that you're really able to build something solid within yourself, where you've really overcome a personal hurdle and obstacle once and for all, and you're done with it. Or you build something in the real physical world. Okay, the eclipse then forms other relationships. First of all, it squares Mars in Cancer at 13 degrees on the IC. Mars is drive and desire, and remind me to say that, before I go to Mars, I just want to also mention that Mercury, the communication planet, even though it doesn't connect with this eclipse, it goes retrograde the day after this eclipse. And it's also in Taurus. So everything lands and is kind of heaped onto Taurus. So we're really entering this season of building, like I said, but with Mercury going retrograde, It's much more about communication that isn't just based on numbers and letters and facts and figures. Emotional communication, body language, those non-verbal types of communication, visual kind of things, they become much more effective. So the thing is, you're being inspired here with this purpose, then you're being pushed to kind of build something and do something with it. If it's the inner work of I'm overcoming myself, then the Mercury retrograde is really, really helpful, because it allows you to see things differently, and it allows you to see your own identity differently, and then those different insights are like little cracks that open the light, and then you can affect change, right? If it's about building something in a practical sense, then it's not so helpful, because Mercury in the real world, when it's in retrograde, it creates communication problems. It's a pain in the neck. So yes, build, go for it, but be open to making mistakes. Be open to amending those mistakes and accept those as part of the process, and don't expect everything to run smoothly. So going back to Mars then, it squares the eclipse, so there's friction between Mars and the eclipse. Mars is the red planet of drive and ambition. At 13 degrees in Cancer, all it wants is family, security and harmony. It's the soldier who's come home and who now wants to kiss his kids. So it's really, again, a beautiful opportunity to kind of build something. I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but like if I say the word build one more time. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to build a family, you know, it's building that sense of home within yourself. And I don't want to say too much about that. I don't want to start weeping. Okay. Next we've got, I like the idea of that, you know, the coming home to the self and being comfortable in the self. I think that's such an amazing idea. The eclipse then also trines Black Moon Lilith at 11 degrees in Leo. And that I really like, because it says I'm really not interested right now in how other people see me. I'm really not. It's almost like I'm feeling the blackout of my own identity here. It's up for discussion. So of course it's not going to matter what other people think, because right now I don't even know what to think. So who cares? So that's very freeing and liberating in itself. Then we've got the eclipse squaring the midheaven in Capricorn at 16 degrees. So 16 is 7, that's the mind and creativity, and Capricorn is work and getting things done. Again, the B word, right? And yeah, the friction is, how am I creatively going to work this out for myself so I can build it? Like, no one's going to design this life or this person or this future for myself. I also have to be the designer and the builder here. So I'm the architect and the forklift operator. And yeah, it's a lot of work, but it is a lot of work. And my mum called me yesterday and she said, you know what, Greg, I watched your video yesterday and you were very cheerful. And also you were very open about the stuff you're saying. So, you know, but I mean, I'd like to use personal examples, because to me, this is a process. And now I've forgotten what I was going to try and say. No, what I was going to try and say is I've always been very reluctant to do. Yeah, I've always been a bit lazy, I suppose, especially when it comes to exercise, physical exercise. At school, I didn't always do more than the bare minimum. At the universities, I started to get my act together, and then, you know, later on. But my initial thing wasn't to like work really hard. And my experience is like the best things in life are the ones, and it sounds, God, I'm starting to sound like some sort of like a dad, which I'm not. But the best things in life require work. You have to work for them to get them, usually. That's the midheaven with the Capricorn at 16 degrees. Let's see what else. So we've got the eclipse squaring the midheaven, I've said that, squaring Mars, trining Black Moon Lilith, and that's it. Yep. Then I mentioned the conjunctions around it. The other planets, the one that strikes me is Pluto at 0 degrees in Aquarius. Pluto is the phoenix rising from the ashes, it's rebirth, and Aquarius is the humanitarian, the teacher, and ideas, and it's healing. And at 0 degrees, there's huge potential for transformation of the inner thinking and thinking about the world and the way you operate in it. Saturn is on its lonesome at 4 degrees in Pisces. That gives you a really good spiritual cushion, and that actually mitigates the potential flare-up factor of all this extra heat and fire. I think you're very focused. So I think you're so disciplined that you wouldn't even lose your temper. You'd be like, this is not effective right now. Please make an appointment. I'm busy. Like, it's really matter of fact. What else? We've got Venus in Gemini at 10 degrees. That allows you to articulate, and also it really does allow you to see this whole vision. And it's been in Gemini, I think, for about a week, and I talked a lot about it in the weekly horoscope, and it's really this poetic, artistic, funny, charming time. So I think partially one that's responsible for you kind of having such an optimistic outlook and being willing to do the work. And second of all, if it comes to anything creative and expressing yourself and kind of visualizing what you want, it's going to be very, very helpful to you. Uranus is next to Mercury, and Uranus is a bad influence on Mercury, I would say. It's like a corrupt older brother telling impressionable little Hermes to smoke that cigarette, you'll look cool. No, Uranus is chaos, it's the unexpected, it's the it's lightning striking, right? It's totally the stuff that comes out of the blue. Mercury delivers messages. Mercury is about transport. It likes order. It doesn't like total chaos. So again, it's in retrograde, so it's somewhat like looking inward rather than outward anyway. And then with Uranus on top of it is another kind of reason why this is so extreme, because not only are you thinking differently, you might have these lightning strikes of inspiration. I think there's a French expression for that, which is really good, like an éclat or something. Can't even, if you're French, tell me. It's a really good French one, like a mind lightning thing. Okay. If you look inside of the wheel, then we've got some major aspect patterns, right? And in the middle, we've got a triangle, a blue triangle. It's not a grand trine technically because it's squished at the top between Pluto and Capricorn. It's only meant to include one, and it kind of includes both. But I still kind of count things like this. It connects Mercury and Uranus in Taurus, Ceres in Virgo, and then Pluto in Aquarius and the midheaven in Capricorn. So I think it's the just the lightning strike idea is about the inner work that you can do, or you can now drop because it's concluded, or the work that has to be done for yourself on planet Earth for you to feel, I did it. Yeah. Okay, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm just like, at the end of this video, I'm feeling a little, it puts a lot of pressure on the self. I mean, Venus is very loving. Saturn in Pisces gives you that spiritual support. But, you know, not everyone wants to build a giant empire in life, nor should anyone have to. But all of us are able to create something for ourselves, I feel, that brings us joy. And whether it's tiny and easy to work at and build, and it's a first step to something bigger, or it's something big that you now feel brave enough to tackle, that you've wanted to do since you were 5. I think the scale of it is irrelevant. I think what's important is to get started with something on this much of a scale or on that scale, because ultimately this is something that will snowball and move you in a particular direction that's a good direction. And you've got this for the next 6 months. So I hope that gives you an idea of what this eclipse is about. If you would like a personal reading with me, please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to order your reading with me. I use astrology to the tarot, numerology, and my intuition in my personal readings. To draw up your birth chart, just like the one next to me here, I just need your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. A lot of people don't have the time of birth, so that's not a problem. There's a process called chart rectification, excuse me, where you send me 10 or more significant life events that have happened, and I'm able to work out your time of birth manually. And then I can interpret your chart the way I interpret this chart. It tells me a lot about your life purpose, your default setting, your spiritual direction you're going in, relationships, finances. To look at what's coming up in future, I look at the progress charts and transits. And if it's around your birthday, it's really a good idea to do a solar return chart that kind of tells me the themes for the year ahead. And I also use astrocartography to look at how certain locations are going to affect you. Like the birth chart is me looking up, right? From position Earth looking up. And the astrocartography is the same way, it just reverses it. So you're looking down on the planet and seeing how the other planets are moving over different areas and how those then influence you specifically. So if you have any questions, please do get in touch with me for a personal reading. Robin and I managed to launch the merchandise shop yesterday, so that's up and running. I put a link in the description, but what's also happening is that it's automatically like listing the product under the video. I'm really happy with that. Like people asked me to do merch. We've done it. We got some great designs. Thank you, Ava, so much for the beautiful designs. We love them. The whole process was fun to work with. The only thing I'm concerned about is that it may make everything seem too commercial, you know? Like, I've played around with putting ads on my videos and things, and I don't put ads on my videos because people don't like them. So I don't know how the response is going to be. Let me know in the comments. Yeah. But we've done it, and we can either keep the things on there, or we can just provide a link. And then also, I'm already getting ahead of myself again with this. Also, we've got like a badge, a Gregory Scott badge, which has my initials, which is like in blue watercolor. I think it's great. And then we've got that combined with like other designs or just the badge on its own. And then we have what energy are you working with? And we have, I watch Gregory Scott every day. And we have it in different kind of forms and stuff. And it looks really good on cups and t-shirts and hoodies and all that stuff. But I was also thinking, like, I've got my own deck of tarot cards. Like, I should include those in there as well. Like, you know, my favorite card in my deck is the Devil card. I love that guy in the bell jar. I love it for whatever reason. Right now, that's my favorite in the deck. And that on a t-shirt, I think would be great. But again, we've barely done this and I'm already on to the next thing. So, that's it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, please. Hit subscribe and share the video online. Have a fabulous time during this eclipse. Check out the weekly horoscope. I also go into detail there. And there's a big build up to this. Like the 3 days happening before this eclipse happens are pretty intense. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I do daily tarot readings. And I probably said this already. Yeah. Have a wonderful time and I will speak to you soon. All the best. Take care.